Welcome back to Road to Fire. We're a family of three documenting our journey to fire, financial independence, retire early. Now let's talk about joint versus separate accounts when it comes to couple finances. I'll share our approach and why we manage our finances the way we do, including all of our real numbers like always, so please hang with me. Disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor or relationship expert. I'm sharing our experience and what worked best for us. By no means is there a right or wrong answer, but I share our financial journey to provide perspective and transparency as we continue to pursue fire. So there are really three ways you can manage your finances as a couple. It's really quite that simple. First, you can both decide to have separate accounts, or you can decide to have joint accounts. And if that doesn't work, then you can do a combination of the both, and that's it. In our 13-year relationship, we have managed our finances in all three of these forms, but we've landed on number three. We do a combination of both, but it's mostly joint. So I will share the pros and cons of each type of financial breakdown highlighted and what worked best for us. But how we manage our finances align with the stages in our relationship, which makes sense. But let me explain. Now, the first way we manage our finances as a couple is to keep everything completely separate. During the dating stage, we kept everything separate in anything that regarded to finances, like nothing was combined at all. Why? Well, I was 18 and my husband was 19 and we knew nothing about money, but the one thing I didn't know was that my money was mine and his money was his. So we had separate accounts and it really worked for us at this time. So we split everything evenly during our dating years in college. If we went out to eat, we shared the bill. If we were on a date, my then boyfriend, now husband, would pay for the meal one time and then I would potentially pay for the meal the next time to kind of balance things out. There was nothing official and we didn't keep tabs, but it was kind of an arrangement we had. I worked in an alumni career center bugging people to donate money, and my husband worked in the school cafeteria. So whatever money we made, it was ours and we didn't compile it together. And honestly, in college, it was the best thing ever and it made sense at that time. So here's what our budget looked like. And I don't have our real numbers because, to be 100% honest, we were not really budgeting back then. We would split only our shared expenses. For example, when we started to live together, we only split our rent, our groceries, restaurant, phone, and utilities. Everything else we paid from our own individual accounts. For example, if I got my nails done or went out with my girlfriends or went on a trip with my sisters, that would come out from my individual separate account because honestly, at this point, we were dividing everything in half for only our shared expenses. We had the mine and yours mentalities when it came for finances. One thing to call out, we didn't really have any long-term planning. There was no joint savings, no joint investments, none of that was a part of our budget. In fact, we had no idea about the FIRE movement or zero-based budgeting at this time, and we were only focusing on our shared expenses. So we really didn't have a long-term point of view at this time in our relationship. So the pros of having separate accounts is really quite clear. First, you have total independence of your finances. You don't have to worry about anyone as you manage your finances the way you want. You can spend when you want, how much you want, whenever you want, and answer to absolutely no one. Then there's an even split, so it feels fair. I never pay more than what you pay in all of our shared expenses. And the best part is an easy exit. So say my husband and I broke up and we decided not to be together back in 2007. Well, there would be no problem exiting as our finances weren't joined, so there would be absolutely no issue with departing financially. But there are big cons. We would have no shared goal or no long-term planning, and that was a key thing that was missing. When we decided not to share accounts, we basically had one foot in and one foot out in our relationship, almost like a just in case this might work out. It's hard to create long-term wealth with your partner if your finances are not shared. I mean, it can be done, but it's much harder this way. The last biggest con is lack of transparency. I have no idea what you're buying, what you're spending your money on, and where your money's going each and every month. Are you planning for retirement? Are you saving? Are you investing? Are you buying new items? These all can lead to hidden spending issues that might arise later on in your relationship. But I've seen many couples make separate accounts work, so no judgment here if this is how you manage your money. So this type of breakout made sense early on. We were not fully committed. I mean, we were dating and monogamous, but you know what I mean. There was no ring and we were still very young. So it made sense for us to kind of have separate accounts at this time. But as our financial journey was evolving, just like our relationship, we shifted towards a new stage of how we would manage our money. Okay, this gets us to number two then. And this is the classic, almost traditional way of managing your finances as a couple by joining all of your accounts. This is exactly what we did when we got engaged into the early years of our marriage. We literally went into the bank and added all of our names to all of our pre-existing accounts. It really wasn't that hard to do. But this way of managing our finances was a little bit harder than we actually thought. We had joint credit cards, joint bank accounts, and managed our money collectively. But we soon realized we had different money mindset. I was a spender, so I enjoyed going out with friends and family and having girls night out in the town. And my husband was a saver, classic introvert who loved secondhand items and spent next to nothing each month. To be honest, our financial management style was so unbalanced. On top of that, our income was never even per se, so joining our bills almost felt uneven, which caused a lot of friction. But let me explain quickly. So here's how we manage our budget when we had all joint accounts. We still had the mine and your mentality, which caused a lot of friction. We had our bills split by income. So one person paid for X% of the budget while the other person paid for the remaining based on the income at the time. In practice, this felt fair. But the problem with this is that you have someone paying more in the dollar value, and the true income is always changing. In the last 10 years, I've worked at 5 different companies, and that's the same for my husband, meaning our income is always adjusting on who's earning more and who's earning less, and what is that percentage breakout. So our budget breakout was always changing, and we needed to continuously update the split based on our income. We couldn't really plan long term with these constant changes. We did start to include savings, but our mindset was short term, and we weren't even looking into investing together at this point either. So the pros on having all of your account joint is fairly obvious here. It's an open book. You know where everyone is spending. There's no question where your money is going each and every month. You also can have shared goals and begin to start long-term planning. But on the flip side, you have no independence. There's almost like this feeling of always being watched in a sense. You can't really have surprise gifts or trips planned as all of your accounts are joint. It may seem minor to others, but it was a big issue for us. Also, it'd be really hard to untangle your finances once everything is joint, especially your long-term investments and assets that you may have. And then there's always that debate or conversation around unequal accounts or split, as the higher earner at the time will have higher responsibilities, and this can also change based on the income adjustments throughout the relationship. So I know this may seem minor, but these are some of the big cons we had with this format. We did what we thought others did. It just seemed like joining all of our accounts was how we were supposed to be as an official married couple, but we quickly found out this was not the right move for us. So we landed on number 3, a combination of the two. We have some joint accounts and one separate account for each of us. Year 3 to now in our marriage came with a lot more maturity and trust, which made this type of financial management plausible. I don't think we would have been this way at age 18, so getting to where we are now took a lot of trial and error over time. Combining all of our accounts align with the life stage we're at now as parents. It's easier to plan, organize, and outline in the future when we have joint accounts, but we still have a sense of freedom with our own personal account, so it's honestly the best of both worlds for us. The biggest shift for us is the ours part. The money that comes into our account is defined as ours, not his or mine, nor by income, but as a collective unit. It took us years to get here, but this works the best for us. We have joint accounts for everything and have one separate checking account each of us for our fun money. If you watch any of our latest budget videos, which I'll link here, you'll know we have next to nothing budgeted as fun monies, as we really aren't big spenders right now. But say we wanted to buy a new video game or an app or some new nail polish, then we'll use our fun money from our personal checking accounts to pay for it. In our marked budget, we now have long-term planning. It's a huge priority for us to build wealth together versus separately, as we have a unified view of our finances now. I love this way of budgeting and managing our money, but man, did it take a very long time to get to this point. Top 3 pros. First, you still have some sort of independence, as we each have our own individual checking accounts with our fun money in it, so we can spend it on anything we want without having any reason tied to it. It's also very easy to manage our expenses and our budget this way, as we have one account for all of our expenses that are coming out each and every month, so it's a clear way for us to understand our financial statements on a monthly and annual basis. And the biggest pro is building wealth. It's very hard to build wealth together if your finances are not joined. So it's easier to outline long-term goals, create future plans, and better understand retirement needs when your accounts are joint. But there are always cons. Number 1 and 2 are tied closely together. There still is no easy exit. Say we're getting divorced, it'll be really hard to divide up our assets. Also, the more wealth you build together with someone, the harder it is to unravel. It's really easy to split assets like a car or a laptop, but it gets really dicey when you start adding in rental property and larger investment accounts. Lastly, there still is a sense of limited privacy or lack of autonomy as 95% of our accounts are still joint. But it's not a big issue for us as honestly I share everything with my husband anyways. We found what works for us, and honestly, find what works for you. There really is no right or wrong way to manage your finances with your partner. Take the time to talk it out, find the right process and system and budget, and just do it. Now, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. But don't forget to comment and subscribe below. Until next time.